welcome back to the off-season championship matches. We've got a match here between Lego and QQ. We're going to get started. QQ in the blue in the bottom here, otherwise known as Two Meows, and Legomann in the green in the left. Looks like QQ is going to scout correctly. He's got his opponent. Oh no, he missed actually. Okay. So both sides looking for each other here. As we are getting started, I want to say thank you for tuning in and watching. If you guys are already looking at the unit screen and you see the raccoons in the third slot of QQ's deck, then you might notice this is on the test patch. This version has not yet dropped at the time of this casting. This is a test for it. Also, snakes have been greatly changed. I don't actually know which version of the test patch they're on. I believe it's a mod that was dropped as a version 2 of the test patch for the championship last fall. Looks like QQ is going to try some mole aggression there, but he does not actually follow through with it. Instead, he's going to go ahead and drop the scavs down right away. So 7 farm scav. Let me explain real quick. The scavs are an eco unit. They're kind of like a big squirrel or a small fox. But they're an eco unit. So if they're in your own territory, they will actually lose food over time. And if they're outside your territory, they will gain food over time. So it kind of rewards playing out on the map and playing aggressively. Snakes are a pretty hard counter to them, though. Snakes deal, I believe it's 20 damage over 20 seconds, so it's a pretty slow acting poison. You can see this raccoon there is going to eat. There's the -2, yep. So let's see if we can get some damage with this raccoon done before the first snake comes out. First shot goes on the Warren, second onto a squirrel. There's another squirrel, okay. Ideally, we should be shooting the pig there. One squirrel does go down, but the Warren is actually tanking a lot. And now the snake is going to pop out. QQ does have pigeons in his deck. And now he knows that there are snakes to deal with. He's trying to focus down this snake before his raccoons get tagged. And he does, actually. Wow, all right. Excellent micro from QQ there, actually saving all of his tier 2. Okay, so these are the patch snakes that do 15 damage over 10 seconds rather than the 20 over 20. So a little bit more viable, my mistake. Sorry, that was the live patch I was referring to. For those of you just tuning in for the raccoon, so it's like a big squirrel, or kind of like a small fox, but imagine it like a big squirrel. But every 4 seconds, it'll gain 1 food. Let me pause here. Every 4 seconds, these raccoons will gain 1 food if they're outside of QQ's territory. So out here in this neutral space or in the green space, the raccoons will be gaining 1 food every 4 seconds. If they're in the blue space, they'll be losing 4 food every 4 seconds. So it's pretty punishing, and that's why QQ is having to hang out outside here. With the pigeons, it's really helping against the snakes, but not enough. Snakes are generally the perfect counter to raccoons. I remember back in the day when snakes would have been a counter to MGs, since they used to be able to tag structures. Oh, another raccoon does go down. QQ's in trouble. Now, he does have a little bit of extra eco, although because his raccoon Warren is deep in his territory, the raccoons will pop out and immediately, like, eat some of his food. So it's hard to say if it's totally worth it or not, because he's losing his own food, but either way, Legomann is actually pushing in, and with all of these snakes, absolutely shutting down, and with the pigeons, too, keeping those snakes alive, QQ is in trouble. QQ taps. Legomann takes game 1. All right, game 2. QQ in the blue down here, and Legomann in the green in the top left. QQ's scouting up towards the top here. He's still bringing the scavs. Legomann is actually really well known for being a snake player. He's, as far as I can remember, always really loved the snake in its various iterations. The only time I've really seen him not play snakes, or not really play at all, was this current patch when snakes were not seen as viable. He tried them a couple of times, didn't have great success, so he's moved on to playing just on the test patch here, where snakes are a little bit more stable. So knowing that, it's funny to see QQ going for scavs anyway. A lot of people consider snakes to be a perfect counter to scavs for the very reason we saw last game. But we'll see what he wants to do with it. Both sides also running pigeons, squirrels, wolves. QQ also running toads and mines for AoE. Legomann running skunks and falcons. I think I've got to favor Legomann's deck here. Skunk Snake in this version of the patch is pretty incredible, not to mention the snakes specifically countering QQ's scavs, but QQ's always marched to the beat of his own drum when it comes to decks and kind of play styles. So we'll see what he has in mind here. I'm a fan of toads myself, so I'd love to see some of that. Okay, so he's actually selling and rebuying squirrels and toads, going for a bit of a 9-6 here. 9-6 is the squad composition here, 9 squirrels and 6 toads. Seems to work out really effectively in the early game. Legomann here going for skunks, bit of pigeon support. Problem is Squirrel Toad should be able to bust through this pretty effectively. Until both skunks are out, the pigeons aren't going to do great against the toads, so QQ, I think he has a bit of an opening here if he wants to go push right about now. Legomann is going to have one skunk up with the other one on the way. Lots of pigeons. One squirrel does go down there. And it's all going to come down to the micro of this one skunk. The second skunk is supply blocked, which is key here. QQ is rallying in. His commander is pretty low on health, and his squirrels are in gas. But as long as he can get his toads connected, he should be alright. His commander's actually going to go down here. Toad's getting okay connections. I think that's one Warren going down. That's not good enough. Legomann should be doing just fine now. His skunks are up. The pigeons are out. He's rebought that squirrel Warren. It's not a total loss for QQ, but Legomann is definitely looking scary right now. Skunks did get a buff from the current live patch, so they're doing really well. They don't have a root time at the moment, I don't believe, so their retreating micro is pretty crazy, and their skunk gas lasts a little bit longer as well. QQ losing his commander again, trying to get some good toad connections. One of the skunks goes down. The pigeons putting in overtime, keeping some of those squirrels alive, and Legomann again takes a favorable advantage. A favorable engage, rather, and has the advantage. Alright, gonna zoom out here and take care of this bot. Give me a second. Alright, we're back. Skunk pigeon push continuing from Legomann here. The skunks are just not dying, and the pigeons are getting so much value as QQ just throws wave after wave of Squirrel Toad against it. Not able to make anything happen here. And toads over time do lose value. You really have to actually trade effectively with them, so Legomann is going to kill this expansion. That should be about game here. Legomann with a full army and some floated food. QQ not able to get enough critical mass. Toads also rely on critical mass. You need like about 6 of them before they can really get in there and connect. So Legomann holding on, using the power of the new skunks. All right, going into game 3 here. QQ in the blue up here, switching his deck out for a lot of tier 1, including Crows, which is a new melee flying tier 1. And Legomann on match point here in the green. Alright, looks like we've got a little bit of mole cheese here, but Legomann sees it. He's going to have to sell that Warren. The mole backs up and is sold. So a little bit of a sell timing. QQ was floating a lot to do it though, so I think I'd like to say Legomann took the better end of that little trade there. QQ going into the pure lizard. I don't believe lizards have gotten buffed here in this version. I know Eel and some of the community members have really talked about it. Oh, this mole is going to be a pain in the butt, actually. It's going to kill this Warren, or at least force a sell on it. So he does force a sell. Yeah, Legomann's actually in pretty big trouble right now. All of a sudden, the mole is going to bust down this Warren, and the lizard's going to be able to follow that off, and lizards can actually kill squirrels as well. So Legomann already taking some crucial damage here in this early game. His Warrens were too far forward. Usually you want to rely on pigs to keep your Warrens alive against stuff like that, but he was too greedy, putting his Warrens forward, and QQ jumping on him, taking back a game. All right, game 4. Legomann up here in the blue. Excuse me, QQ up here in the blue. 2 meows QQ. And Legomann in the green down at the bottom here. It's looking like we're beginning to see the beginning of a bit of a reverse sweep. QQ is sticking with his aggressive tier 1 deck. You've got all the consistent damage dealers of the tier 1, leaving out toads and pigeons. He's also bringing snakes, the new snakes, and owls. Playing with some moles here again. Turns out it is just a fake out, but Legomann is actually going to bite here. Gonna recheck, and yeah, everything evens out. Legomann is actually slightly ahead on Warren, or the food timing at the moment. We'll have to see if QQ can work with lizards and moles again, or if Legomann's going to play it a little bit more safe. All right, double tier 1 Warrens from both sides here. One of those Warrens is safe, the other one's a little bit further out, but QQ is not going to be able to shut this down this time. Nope, he's going to try anyway. All right, we're going to try to pressure this forward Warren of Legomann's yet again. Is it going to work? The mole Warren already taking some damage, so QQ has to sell at a bit of a loss and move back. So Legomann trying to take this expansion here. I'm definitely liking Legomann's position at the moment. QQ getting into Squizzard, dropping some Squirrel Warrens. We'll have to see if the crows come into play here. the consensus in the community at the moment is this version of crows is pretty weak. So we'll have to see if they come out at all. Legomann dropping the Skunk Warren, as well as that expansion. QQ has expanded on the far right as well, but now he's playing with Squizzard actually outperforms against pure Squirrel, so he's able to kind of put some pressure on. And if Legomann commits with his Squirrels, the Lizards are going to jump onto him. Looks like here comes the commitment. Here comes the fight. A lot of Squirrel shots wasted on that mill, but the Lizards are doing really well against the Squirrels there. And QQ actually comes out pretty far ahead in that engagement, forcing Legomann back. QQ does have an expansion here, and he's getting into crows now. Meanwhile, Legomann getting skunks. So here comes the test of crows. When you've got the rest of the supporting tier 1, can the crows get their value? Against powerful skunks, it should be noted that Skunk Gas does not damage flying units, and crows are flying units, so they will be unbothered by the skunks. But crows are pretty flimsy individually, so if the skunks of Legomann can take out the rest of QQ's army, the crows will die pretty fast. There's the third crow warren. Legomann adding some pigeons. I really like the pigeon choice here. Obviously, he's using them to sustain his pushes, but even just having 1 or 2 flying units can help you see up cliffs and partially negate the high ground advantage. Oh, he does sell them down. He's going for farms instead now. Anyway, as I was saying, once Legomann has a little bit of pigeon support, he doesn't have to worry as much about the high ground, kind of overlooking his natural, which at the moment is a little bit of a concern. QQ just farming up a couple of farms on his expansion over here. And it looks like QQ's setting up for a bit of a flank. We'll have to zoom out to see all pieces of the army here as QQ's setting up, ready to attack. Alright, the squirrels begin poking the skunks pre-gas, and QQ is not over eager. Now here he pulls the trigger, the crows coming in from the flank. They're actually just not going to be in the fight soon enough, but the lizards are doing really well. Now the crows come in and they're on top of everything. They're ignoring the skunk gas, and all the squirrels are starting to go down, so these crows are definitely getting some value here. The pigeon warren goes down and the base goes down. That's a lot of value for QQ. Legomann is basically forced to try to counter push here. His skunks are pretty low, so he's going to have to give them a bit of a bath to heal up faster in the water. And QQ, again, setting up a bit of a flank with the lizards and crows and squirrels, all coming from different angles, running in. And it looks like the skunks are going to go down, and so will Legomann's chances. So crows performing pretty well here. All right, going on to game 5, which we love to see in a best of 5. Nice engage indeed. All right, QQ here in the blue, running with a totally different deck. This is a very much more standard QQ deck. He loves the Badger Fox. He loves the artillery, double tier 3. Legomann with his standard as well, up here in the green. QQ took his 2 games off of a lot of aggression, so this is a totally different style. We'll have to see what Legomann has in mind as well. Later on, I'll be casting Studios versus Szenszej, also on a slightly different version of the test patch, and then Tatanka versus Melvin will be on vanilla, not test patch. So we'll close the evening out on that vanilla version. QQ with a bit of a 5-farm double rush here. No, more like a safety. Okay, so a little bit of pressure. Legomann is forced to drop some warrens as well. So both sides trying to get up to that 8 farms without dying. So the 2 warrens are a bit of a safety there. It's going to be about even. QQ does drop the Q, the 8th farm here. There it is. It's getting started. And Legomann starts his up as well. So it's pretty even here. It's hard to say if anyone is really ahead. I really like the potential for a back expand for QQ, but he's going to go ahead and take the forward one as well. This back expand could be his third base then. We might even see an artillery, maybe here really defensively, here on this high ground, or maybe far forward on this high ground. Legomann's usual composition of squirrel, skunk, pigeon is not really going to do that well against an artillery. Skunks don't damage structures, and artillery is actually a pretty solid counter to squirrels. So we'll have to see if he drops that. QQ is right now, he's going to farm up, and Legomann is going to move forward, teching up into his preferred composition and queuing up a farm. All right, there's that arty that I was looking out for, and an MG as well to try to get it up. QQ is really good at dropping the arty once he scouts his opponent going for a tier 2, since that arty will be up by the time Legomann is ready with his skunk push. And like I said, the skunk push isn't going to do, the skunk squirrel style of push isn't going to do that well against an artillery anyway, which leaves QQ just ahead in economy, with plenty of options solidly defended. Extra pigeons coming up from Legomann here, trying to move forward to put on some pressure. And the arty is finishing up right now as we speak. Gonna push Legomann right on back. And right now QQ is floating a bunch of food, so he should be able to safely drop his tier 3. There we go, there's the badger. And I'm expecting the fox to come soon after. Legomann is going to expand, or farm up his expansion fully here, all the way up to 16 farms. Probably drop the wolf in a moment. Okay, some falcons. Falcons are the best answer to an arty, since arty can't shoot up. Looks like QQ is going to also farm up here. Not getting the fox just yet. Oh, wow. Okay, so QQ also farming up on a kind of a ninja third base here. So just going absolutely insane with the economy. And he is going to show grabbing this third base, but I don't think Legomann knows about... Nope, Legomann does not know about this ninja just yet. There is the wolf, going for wolf tier 2, wolf falcon specifically, from Legomann. He's moderately farming up on his third base. I think he thinks he's matching QQ's third base here, but little does he know QQ is fully farmed up, full greed on this ninja. Pretty high risk, high reward. And then there is the fox. Legomann is going to move forward with some falcons and put on some harassment damage here. Okay. Nothing killed off just yet, but he's going to continue to be a little bit annoying across this cliff here. And he does see the badger, so he knows what he's up against. We do have a good point in the chat here. With the arty, there's no way to artillery creep forward besides maybe here and then grabbing that base. But there's a big empty space here where the artillery can't really creep. So if Legomann just got really, really aggressive with his economy, but that would have required scouting this corner. Really, this third base for QQ, the ninja, is a huge piece of this, because Legomann probably thinks that he is ahead on eco, at least by a little bit, but yeah. But QQ is grabbing this from Legomann's side of the map. So Legomann, if you count this whole side of the map as Legomann's, that's 6 bases to 3, but right now it's going to be 5 bases to 4 once this one's all mined up and all the resources go to QQ. Note, QQ is also leaving himself some starve options here. He's getting into double fox, which is fantastic. And now he's massing up the squirrels, which aren't going to do that great against 4 skunks and a wolf. But if he can pick off the skunks, you know, and sometimes just having overwhelming numbers can just push through. The snakes, especially wolf buffed, really are going to make it hard for the fox to get value here. You can just dart forward, get a few tags onto the fox, and you're really in trouble. So Legomann does have a really powerful composition, and a lot of wolf falcons. This should be really good. QQ is going to have to rely on his mass squirrel and keep it from dying to skunk gas. But let's see. Foxes are getting some extra value here. He does finally see this base, but the wolf almost dying here. The wolf's almost completely dead. A lot of the skunks go down. 2 of the skunks are dead. Meanwhile, QQ's squirrels are starting to lose their hit points. The squirrels could also be there just to soak snake tags, which is pretty crazy, since the squirrels themselves are going to die over time. But if the snakes can't quite get their tags onto the valuable tier 3 because of all the squirrels mixed in there, that's going to be really good for QQ. Meanwhile, the foxes have been killing off most of Legomann's falcons. Looks like one of the foxes does go down to snake tags. The badger is still alive, though. Legomann has not had time to finish off this ninja. Not that it matters much anymore. Those farms are almost entirely used up. If QQ can corner Legomann's army and kill off that fox or those snakes, that's going to be huge, especially in this open field where the skunk gas isn't quite as effective. That base goes down again here. There's going to be another falcon picked off. The foxes have definitely got their value despite playing against a wolf player. QQ has actually managed the foxes pretty well. And now Legomann's army just falling apart. The wolf goes down. The foxes do go down, but again, they have already paid for themselves. So even if you kill the foxes, once they've killed enough units, it doesn't really matter. The badger is going to move in on top of everything of Legomann's. Start to kill off this third base. And 1 or 2 snake tags isn't going to do it when QQ has so many pigeons to help keep everything alive. That is a lot of snake tags, but the badger is moving in and starting to do a lot of structural damage. A fox comes up, and Legomann taps out. QQ taking the series 3-2. All right, ready for the next set of games. Studios versus Szenszej. Let's get into it. All right, Shen in the red in the far left, and Studios in the yellow in the far right. Both sides running crows. Now this is the patch test version, so we've got 2 new units, the crow and the raccoon. Studios had a suggestion for some balance since we put out a mod, and that's what these 2 are playing on. What this changes is lizards are at 8 HP instead of 7. Back to an earlier strength, just kind of a little buff. Crows are still at 6 hit points, but they have 3 DPS instead of 2, so they're a little stronger, and they don't have agile, so they'll kind of stand still while attacking instead of sweeping through. So it makes them a lot stronger in the early game and as fighting units, but it makes them scale less insanely. With the agile, they scaled up really well, so a little bit of a kind of buff for crows, a bit of an adjustment, a buff for lizards, and then skunks are back down to 32 hit points instead of 34, and they have a 0.1 second root time instead of the no root time. So skunks got a little bit of a nerf back down, still 6-second gas, etc. So that was some patch note stuff for this particular version. Hopefully Eel can check this out and see if this information is valuable. Eel is the dev in charge of the continuing balance updates for Tooth and Tail. So Studios going for Cam first here. This is a really long map, so it's going to be hard for anybody to be punishing the other player for going tier 2 first. Shen is going pure lizard here. Back to the 8 hit points lizard. He's feeling confident to go for it. I actually really like the chances of Lizard Crow as a tier 1 composition, especially with mine. So Lizard Crow mine seems pretty doable with the Lizard buff and the Crow buff here. Szenszej also going for an opening. Now, Squirrel Cam is generally considered a counter to pure Lizard. Lizards will beat Squirrels in an open field for sure. But Cams have always kind of been thought of as a counter to the Lizards. Since the Lizards have less range, the Cams can get up and start doing their damage more easily. And they can tank for the Squirrels. Studio's going for the classic Squirrel Cam Mole timing push. Shen is trying to bring up a balloon, but that balloon's actually going to get shot down. And he's going to try to keep it here. The Lizard's moving in, but the Cam's blocking. The balloon is no longer being focused and actually gets a lot of damage off. Wow. I thought Shen was being a bit greedy keeping that balloon up, but running in with the Lizards, the balloon actually gets enough shots off to get its value, and it survives, giving Shen a lot of vision now. So really nice. I think Studios might have had to kind of hard focus the balloon, but hard to say. Anyway, we are moving on. Shen grabs another farm, and Studios is going to get his expansion up as well. Shen moving out with these classic buff Lizards, looking for a back door, and he should find it. Just barely. Studios isn't going to see this coming. He's going to get in to see no Lizards, but the Lizards are running around towards the back. He's actually going to go for the mill instead of farms, just completely clean that out. Looks like he loses 3 Lizards in exchange for a mill that had 3 farms on it. So that's really brutal. Very important he keeps the Lizards alive so that Studios can't counter push. Oh. Uh-oh. Studios may be able to kill off a few of these Lizards. That's 1, 2, 3. Yep, 3 killed off. So that nice catch from Studios there. Making sure Shen can't get away with that again. But still, definitely worth it. Szenszej getting into a couple of crows here. And you know what? This is an interesting use. Ferrets benefit from having high ground vision since they can siege at such a long range. And classically, you would use pigeons, right? You get some pigeons to go with your ferrets to give them some high ground vision. But Shen, it looks like he's setting up for using crows instead of pigeons as high ground. They won't heal, but they obviously are going to deal some extra damage in a fight. For example, against Studios Cams. If Studios tries to move forward, the crows are going to be able to fight the Cams pretty effectively here. Shen is placing mines, but Studios is going to pick a bunch of them off here. Note that in the patch, mine reveal radius is actually increased. So most of those mines do get picked off here. There we go. All of them do get picked off. But now Shen is moving on in with Mass Lizard here with some Crow support. Crow's gonna dive in and take out these Cams. And you know what? Studios actually still holds. I think there was enough running around from the Lizards and the Crows that they weren't able to get their value. So here comes a Falcon, is going to be able to push these back for sure and even pick one off. Shen is going all the way back home. Studios has got a boar as well on the way here. I don't know if Shen is going to be ready for this. The crows are going to be a little bit helpful against a boar since the boar can't shoot up. Also, the balloon will be helpful. I don't know about the ferrets, though. We'll have to see. Now, Shen is getting into larger amounts of crows. He's going to have up to 9 now instead of just 3. So this is actually where they do start to scale. Looks like Studios is not comfortable pushing just yet. He's farming up a lot and kind of trying to get larger numbers of squirrels out first. Squirrels are supposed to be the counter to crows if used properly. And it definitely makes sense that without a large number of squirrels, Studios would not have much of a chance here. Szenszej is setting up for a bit of a flank here, but Studios is ready to shut that down. Shen playing a little bit risky, actually, leaving his lizards out here. Studio's going to move in with this boar. And he does actually kill, looks like 3 or 4 lizards go down, actually. So Shen being a little bit greedy, leaving his lizards in place for flanks like that. Going after this mill. Not really a big target. I'm not entirely sure if it's worth it, except in the event of a later base trade. Losing quite a few lizards for it. If there is a base trade, though, Studios is technically down to 1 base, so that's notable. Now there really are a lot of crows out. And this is what we're here for. I want to see how well these crows perform en masse. Szenszej is definitely ready for a base trade. He's got 4 bases around the map. He's got a lot of balloons, and he is going to attack in and just target the base down. The crows are not going to be affected by cams, so they're just going to, like, focus the base down and take it down instantly. All right, Szenszej takes game 1. All right, Shen in the red. I got the scoreboard out and switched up here. Still running Lizard Crow. Excited to see a little bit more of that, maybe in a little bit more of an even and less swingy game. And Studios up here bringing crows as well. I don't believe we saw them last game from him, but we'll have to see here. In the yellow. So some pretty diverse army compositions here. We're going to have to see how they work out. A lot of this comes down to Szenszej playing with only ferrets as his tier 2, which is a pretty, like a Heartseed style way of playing this. Or Tatanka sometimes plays with styles like this with a the balloon and mine combination with ferrets and a fox, or sorry, well, sometimes a fox, but a boar. So it's a pretty off-meta style, and it's pretty strong, but pretty different. So I'm interested in seeing it. Studios is playing with a much more classically meta deck. This is literally the meta from last patch, with the flex unit being the crows now. And it looks like he was considering doing a bit of mole cheese, but if you go 8 farm mole, it's farm 8 you want to be able to kill off, but Shen's farm 8 was safe there, so... Szenszej doing Lizard Expand, and Studios, not sure what he's going to do yet. He's got a couple of Warrens dropped. Looks like a Mole Warren here as well. Note that you can burrow to Mole Warrens now, so Studios could go home, do something, and then burrow back here. But he's going to try to... Uh-oh, the squirrel... I'm going to pause here for a second because this is important. This squirrel needed to be up here, but it paused for a second to shoot down, shoot at this campfire, so the lizards should be able to save... Shen's base here. The squirrel's just not getting up into the, well, maybe. Alright, so Studios is actually kind of making this aggression work, despite all of his squirrels pausing to shoot the dang mill, or the dang campfire, on the way up. The Mole Warren goes down, and this has actually got to be pretty frustrating. If all of those squirrels had not stopped here and taken damage from this campfire, then Shen would be in big trouble. He'd have an army right here, sitting outside of his base. But as it is, Studios is floating a bunch of food, didn't get that much damage done, and now he has to retreat. The campfires don't do near as much damage as they used to, but they can still do some and definitely distract your units. So that might have been a rare moment for the hold micro from Studios. Now the game looks like it is going to settle down for the moment. Studios getting into cams again, and Szenszej just massing up lizards here. There's that first crow. Another one, okay. It's hard to overestimate how much of a big deal that campfire was. I think if not for that campfire, Studios may have been able to straight up win the game, or at least forcibly be ahead. But because of that, and because of not really taking that into account with his micro, both sides are pretty comfortable here. These cams are on their way to this side. I think Studios saw this, and so he's going to try to focus it down. Yep, there they go. Going to take that out. Easy enough. Shen is dropping a balloon here. It's a really far back defensive balloon. So he might be stuck all-inning on one base here. Oh, one of the cams does reveal for a second. This balloon isn't doing much at the moment. It seems like Shen isn't quite hard committing onto Mass Tier 1 since he's got the balloon, but he's also not really hard committing onto expanding. But you know what? Studios is going to try to attack in anyway. He's got his 4 cams up. He's got mass squirrels. He's adding some moles. So this balloon is going to help after all. Lots and lots and lots of crows coming up. So we'll have to see the mass squirrel versus the mass crow, how it works out. Between the 1 mine hit and the balloon here, the cams do go down, but the squirrel mole is getting it on top of everything. Trying to focus the mill down, actually. Is Studios going to be able to do that? I think that might have been an overextension. He got a lot of damage, but he got a little bit greedy. The mill survives with 18 hit points. Studios should still be feeling comfortable, though, picking off a pig and some warrens. Yeah, I don't think he needed to focus the mill there. I think he got a little bit greedy. You can just continue to pick off army units. You can continue to pick off warrens and pigs, which is a much more helpful goal than just outright forcing the game to end. It seems like the crows massing up that much were not as insanely overpowered as they have been in the past. So the player with the higher tech there was able to take the win. Also 3 different types of units as opposed to 2. So I'm not going to complain there that this squirrel mole can beat the lizard crow, considering Studios had to use tier 2 to do it, and the moles. This is a huge catch from Studios, just picking off a large portion of crows. Obviously, Shen is going for the base trade. One player has a campfire up here, and that player was Studios. So Shen takes... Excuse me. Studios takes that game. Wow, I totally just got mixed up at the end there. Sorry, bit of a base trade, and Studios takes that game. Shen only had the 1 main base, whereas Studios was able to kill Shen's main. It was damaged from earlier, so focusing the mill technically did play off there. Tied up, we're going into game 3. Szenszej with Lizard Toad Crow. All right. Toads there might be trying to be a strong answer to the mass squirrel from Studios. Also, if you get enough melee units like cams and moles crunched up together with the squirrels, the toads have potential for some super insane damage. Also, I think Shen is just playing with the concept of a squirrel-less comp, which she's doing pretty good with. Studios here sticking with the same deck here, the super meta plus crow. I'd love to see Studios add some crows into his deck and see how that works. All right, both sides safely getting up to 8 farms, so we're through the early game. Oh, never mind. Shen with a bit of a 6-farm triple rush. You can hit with about 8 lizards and really overwhelm somebody if you wait for them. Studios is going to scout that. He's going to have to go home, probably sell a farm. No, he's going to try to keep all 8. So there's definitely some opportunities for Shen to get some damage here. Studios does have a mole warren, which helps with the timing of getting some units out. Shen is locking this pig out, so at least 1 kill for sure. Pig for lizard is good for Shen. There's only 2 squirrels here at the moment, actually, so he's going to quick focus down the moles and a squirrel. That's still good for Shen. He didn't get the pig, though, so he is going to run home and grab his extra farms here. So 8 farms and 9 lizards. Studios is going to have all 9 tier 1 of his by the time we get back, but that corner pig could still be vulnerable if Studios messes up his micro at all. No. Okay, so the game looks like it's going to stabilize for now, and now we're going to maybe get into the later portion of the early game. toads being dropped. I like it. If those toads can connect on moles and squirrels at the same time, then that's the value they're looking for. Shen also going for the expansion. Studios looks like he's gearing up with mostly more squirrels and moles. I will note it's a lot easier to scout your opponent if they don't have squirrels. Unless they're literally chasing you with lizards, and even then, squirrels are just much better at denying scouting than lizards are. So Studios gets to just check out what's going on for free here. And he's going to go with another expansion. You can see there the squirrels just kill commanders almost instantly. Shen is going to have to rally home his units as soon as he spawns in. A couple of toads picked off. Make that 3 toads. 4 toads picked off. All right, good following from Studios here. Shen is going to chase now, right? No, okay, just bouncing back and forth here. Studios getting into mass crow now. I'm excited to see it. The crows are a interesting choice since Shen is going to try to rely on toads. Studios crows are going to be impervious to the toads connections, so I'm excited to see it. If you're going to go mass tier 1 and your opponent has toads, you want to diversify into some air as well. Getting crows there means that all of your tier 1 can't explode at once, so that's kind of nice. Even if the crows aren't going to do well on their own, you can at least help make sure your opponent doesn't get great toad connections. Shen actually sells off his toads, getting boar, a couple more farms, and a balloon. That's a really nice balloon placement. Oh my gosh, you can see your opponent coming from really far away. So he actually sells it after it's scouted. Interesting. Studio's rallying over his army. You can see it on the minimap. And Shen is out scouting at the moment, so this might actually... What is he doing? Why is he not killing the boar warren? It doesn't matter. Shen is going for the base trade. Boar warren goes down. He's leaving his lizards at home, and he's just base trading with the crows. Interesting decision here. So the lizards are going to try to defend. Also, Shen did buy this extra base. So between the lizards slowing everything down and the extra bases that he's buying, Studios does clean up the lizards, but now that this base is done, Shen is going to rally everything and go for the full trade here. And Shen takes it. Just more ready to do the base trade, especially with lizards. Welcome into the chat. Jason Blade, Urbane Olive, Wolf Buff Crows seem to be really good. Yeah. I'd love to see it. Sounds exciting. Wolf, we do know that wolf buffed squirrels is already good, so wolf buffed crows sound really interesting. All right, Szenszej here on match point now in the red. Going lizard mole crow now. So doubling down on the melee units here. And Studios with the same deck in the yellow. I thought he had that last game, but he kind of committed to the base trade there. The mole warren kind of sniping the boar. The mole at the corner there is going to snipe the boar warren. Might have been a better play than hard committing to a base trade. If you just leave your army at home, and obviously Shen wasn't really able to catch that warren snipe, so that could have been some huge value. Looks like a 4-farm double lizard rush coming, and Studios with the 5-farm response. A squirrel warren and a mole warren, so Szenszej should not be able to kill a pig here, right? Just barely. Nothing dies. Incredible. Especially incredible for Studios here. Okay, so he does finally force a kill there, losing 3 lizards in order to kill, it looks like, a tier 1 and a pig, so that's actually good for Shen. Personally, if I'm playing against a lizard rush, I like to just go 5-farm double squirrel I find that in very, very small numbers, the moles just don't help enough because they're melee. So if Studios had gone for double squirrel, that might have been better instead of squirrel mole. In larger numbers and in open fights, squirrel mole outperforms pure lizard, definitely, even better than, like, pure squirrel doesn't fare well against pure lizard generally, but in this particular situation, I much prefer the pure squirrel. Also considering the Warren deterioration, if it's an even trade otherwise, and then Studios later goes to sell or buy enough moles to where the Warren dies, then that's even more value for Shen. So I like it for Shen here. The official Tandra Draco gaming recommendation is to not do Squirrel Mole as a 5-farm safety against a 4-farm Lizard Rush. Just do Pure Squirrel. Even though you lose that extra 10 seconds, you think it's worth it. Okay, Shen dropping a Mole Warren of his own, and I don't think Studios is going to see it. No, so he's not sure there's moles yet. Might be an interesting factor here. Also, just the one crow Warren. And there's a bit of a ninja. This is like game 1, I believe. Studios scouted Shen. Game 1 or game 2. Shen would go for like a lizard flank, and then he'd leave his lizards queued up, ready to flank, kind of behind. But Studios has been pretty good at scouting those out and punishing those. So at the end of the day, it seems like Shen may be taking too many risks having his lizards out of the way there like that. There is the boar, finally. Shen deciding to take this campfire and this boar here. Studio's going to try to expand with mass squirrel. I don't think Studios is aware of how little Shen actually has right now. That is one of the things about playing against a lizard player, is lizards are so good at not only denying information by being out on the map presenting threats, but also just making your opponent paranoid. You don't ever want to base trade against a lizard player, so it makes it more of a commitment to move out. Like, just attacking becomes like a potentially game-losing situation. So it's hard to know that you're that far ahead, and even if you are, it's hard to like actually commit to the attack. So I don't blame Studios for not attacking there. The lizards are really just keeping him on the back foot here, and pretty soon the boar will be out, which is a great counter to the squirrel-based army that Studios has got. And it looks like Shen is placing his mole warrens. He's getting ready to attack. Studios is going to see it, so he gets some heads up. Is he going to try to push out and punish this? It looks like he is, so this is actually a bit risky. The boar is not out yet, and when it pops, it's going to be way across the map. But you see Shen is ready to do the base trade thing, so Studios, like I was saying, of course he can win a fight, but look at this huge amount of damage, and Studios has to go home. The boar is, of course, rallied across the map. Now, if Szenszej loses all of his army little bit by little bit, the boar is going to have a hard time as a solo unit, but it looks like Studios is just going to lose his base. That's why Studios didn't attack, and Szenszej just playing really incredibly with his lizards here, taking the series 3-1. All right, game 3, Tatanka versus Melvin. We are ready to go. Let's get into it. Tatanka in the red, in the bottom of the map, and Melvin in the blue, here at the far north, the top. These both are championship quality players. I believe they have both taken championships. If not, certainly I know of a couple of cases where they've gotten top 2, top 4. They're widely considered to be easily in the top 5 of premier players in the world, so this is definitely going to be potentially a hype match. We've got a 5-farm safety warren from Melvin. Let's see what the intention is here. He might just be wary of moles, so he does queue 1 squirrel. Tatanka here is going to grab a 6-farm and then supply block that. Alright, so all the 8 farms are queued up. There is 1 squirrel on each side. Let's take a look at the decks here real quick. So this is not patch test, unlike the last 2 games. This is the vanilla patch where snakes are considered not good, and Tatanka is running snakes. He has made Skunk Snake work pretty well, actually, with a lot of flexibility and a lot of oppressiveness in a patch where it wasn't supposed to work, according to the rest of the community and according to the express intents of the patch developer. So he's running Squirrel Mole, he's got Skunk Snake, he's got Badger Pigeon. So pretty standard, minus the fact that he's using Skunk Snake. In fact, in a previous patch, this would have been considered very normal. Melvin here running with a much more standard current patch deck, relying on Squirrel, Skunk, Falcon, and Pigeon in the earlier game and mid-game, into Badger Fox. Melvin is one of the few players, Melvin and sometimes QQ, are the 2 players that come to mind for Badger Fox. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty difficult to micro effectively. Not too hard, but you know, it's definitely kind of an off-meta tier 3 combo, but Melvin makes it work pretty effectively. Thing is, Snake is kind of a counter to both Fox and Badger, so there's that. And Tatanka is one of the best Snake microers. Okay, there is a pigeon out, but there are 2 tags on this pig, so Melvin is going to have to... I think the pig is going to be fine, as long as none of the pigeons tag a squirrel here. Yep. So Melvin does get his pigeons out just in time to counter the snake harassment there. And Tatanka is maybe in a little bit of trouble as far as the snake choice goes here. Pigeons are a pretty solid counter. Now, in a fight, if you tag some skunks and enough squirrels, it might be too much work for the opponent's pigeons to heal everything. But it's going to come down to micro. Tatanka is one of the best at tagging a lot of different enemy units with the snakes. One of the snakes does go down right away, as well as a warren, and these are pretty small chokes, so the skunks are going to do a lot of damage here. That last snake is going to try to tag as much as possible. 1 hit point on that snake. Keep it out of the gas. And Tatanka, with pigeons of his own, actually keeps all of his pigs alive in the skunk gas. Tatanka also currently going for the badger. It's almost half done. Melvin drops a badger now, but this is not even close to quick enough, so Tatanka might have a pretty brutal badger timing here. Neither side grabbing a second base yet. And you know what? Just as I say that, Tatanka grabs the second base. He's moving forward. He's got some extra money saved up, maybe to buy some farms right as he moves out. The badger is done. Melvin's badger is not even paid for yet, although he does have the money for it. So this is going to be a pretty big timing. There's 40 seconds for Tatanka to push forward, and it looks like he's actually grabbing bases as a base trade opportunity, since he is 100% confident he's going to win this fight. He thinks the only way he can die is the base trade. So he's moving forward. He's going to rev up this badger. Melvin does have a lot of squirrels, but not a lot enough. The snakes are not getting as much value now since he's microing the badger, but he is microing that badger very effectively. And Melvin's badger is just way too slow in comparison to Tatanka's, and this is just going to be GG. All right, game 1 goes to Tatanka. It might have been tough for Tatanka to see, or sorry, for Melvin to see that badger in the back. When Tatanka opened snakes, he kind of kept Melvin back far enough that his badger just was way faster, which is something to note. The way that Tatanka plays specifically with his snakes is he'll get greedy behind him more than you'd expect. He doesn't double down into the aggression the way that Legomann does. So it's something to note here. Game 2, we've got Tatanka switching over to yellow now. Doing what every caster hates, switching colors. Well, every caster with a scoreboard anyway, which I have. And Melvin down here in the blue, going with that 5 farm safety warren again. Not queuing a squirrel this time, but Tatanka's got his own safety warren up, so we should get up to 8 farms no problem. Comment in the chat here, Sasha saying pigeons are kind of a giveaway badgers in the deck. Yeah, at higher levels, for sure. We don't often see pigeons in decks without badgers, since the badger, like, 95% of the time has to have pigeons with it to be maximum efficiency or effectiveness. And pigeons aren't always played with a lot of other things. There are exceptions, though. There are some Wolf Tier 2 decks that like to use pigeons. Well or not, you can argue that, but I've seen it. And there are some boar decks that like to use pigeons, so... but yeah, if you see pigeons, then it's a safe bet to assume that your opponent probably has a badger, or very well could have a badger. Certainly some kind of Tier 3, yes. Alright, same openings as before. Tatanka's going snakes, Melvin's going skunks. Snakes should win in this fight, but if Melvin can get some pigeons up, he'll be just fine. Question in the chat, what's the average number of pigeons for a game? So it depends on what you're doing with them. If you have a badger, like a 1-base badger, 6 or 9 pigeons is good. If you don't, then 3 to 6 pigeons is more than enough for most other uses. Unless you want to get into like huge late game numbers, like 2-base badger or multiple badgers, you'll easily see upwards of a dozen pigeons. Or like 15 plus, but yeah, it's easy to overdo pigeons. 3 is almost always plenty. 6 is overkill on most things, but 6 or 9 is fine for badgers. Yeah, just a few pigeons goes a long way. That's my long answer. Anyway, back to the game here. Melvin is getting into falcons as well. He's got his pigeons, and boy is he going to be relying on these pigeons, since falcons and skunks both die to snakes, especially falcons. But pigeons can kind of keep those alive. In this situation against snakes, it might be nice to get a second set of pigeons. Up to 6, maybe. Meanwhile, Tatanka is going a ninja base over here. I'm going to check Melvin's vision. He does know that Tatanka has that base, which is nice. And it looks like he's not going to overcommit to the farms on his ninja in case it's picked off, which is a really smart idea. You don't want to always like fully farm up a ninja, because that's putting all your eggs into one basket that you can lose. So he just puts a couple. It's worth it, and he's going to force back this falcon. He's trying to tag the falcon, actually. A lot of squirrels getting tagged here. Tatanka is doing the snake thing where you just rally the snakes and you like tap through or click and hold through your opponent's entire army. He does lose all of his snakes, but that's way too much for Melvin's pigeons. In fact, the pigeons actually all die. So 1 pigeon surviving here, and Melvin is going to try to save this falcon. He should be able to. Yep. So that ends up being pretty good for Tatanka, considering he had farms behind it. That whole exchange, it looked like it was going really Melvin favored, but Tatanka got so many snake tags down and killed the pigeons. I don't know if he intentionally focused the pigeons or not, but a lot of Melvin's stuff died. So Melvin actually sells the skunks, which I think is a good call, considering your opponent is not relying on mass squirrel. But Tatanka has these 2 farms, which have paid off by now, and he's farming up here, which is a much safer bet. So I like Tatanka's position a little bit more here. I think he's just a little ahead. It's pretty close, though. All right, there's the first Badger. The Badger is dropped here for Melvin, so he actually gets that up ahead now. Tatanka is sitting on a much bigger army at the moment because of his moles. So if he wants to push in and try to punish the Badger, he definitely can. Melvin doesn't currently have an answer to Mass Squirrel Mole. He did sell his skunks. He's buying them again, but they're not up yet. And Squirrel Mole can just punch through everything that Melvin has. So Tatanka does scout in. I don't think he's seen. Yeah, he hasn't seen the Badger. He hasn't seen the skunks coming back up. So that moment of vulnerability for Melvin might almost be over. Thing is, Tatanka is pretty far ahead on eco. He just needs to be able to handle the Badger. He does have snakes, but if Melvin gets enough pigeons with his Badger, he'll be fine. There's a lot of limited information going on right now. Neither side is entirely sure of what the other one's comp is going to be in a moment. Looks like Tatanka is going to go heavier on... He's got plenty... getting more snakes to try to focus that Badger down. He's getting some skunks as well to put pressure on Melvin's Mass Squirrel, which is an excellent call here. Melvin is not getting a lot of extra pigeons. There's that 9 I was talking about. Honestly, I'd love to see even more just to make sure your Badger stays alive. But yeah, this Badger push is going to hit like a ton of bricks. Tatanka adding a 3rd snake warren, but it's not going to be ready in time. Melvin adding that last queued farm. There's only 4 pigeons right now, so you got to be careful with this Badger, but Melvin really is going to have a powerful push. Just 6 pigeons out at the moment. That queued farm might be trouble. But he's going to slow push it. Ooh, nice pickoff there. Tatanka a little slow in the uptake. He actually loses one of his skunks. That's a lot of Squirrel Mole coming in. And Melvin's going to try to kite back with his skunks and with his Badger. Tatanka's hard pushing here. Okay, now he pushes back, trying to break the rev. That's the problem with moles against a Badger. They just don't really do that well. He's snake tagging the Badger. He's really trying to chase it down. 6 tags go on that Badger. Is it going to be saved here? There's only 4 pigeons, so the Badger is consistently taking damage. There's also damaged squirrels, which are taking pigeon tags, so Melvin has to focus the Badger. Is it still going to be enough? Wow. It is. The Badger barely survives. Oh my gosh. Let's check a look at that army graph there. Yeah, Melvin takes the better exchange. Tatanka is still up on farms, so he's fine. He can survive a bad exchange like that. But Melvin, if Melvin can do it again... I just don't like the mole-based composition of Tatanka versus a Badger. The Badger gets to rev up on them. They can't retreat away from a rev so well. They can't chase. There's just not a lot they can do. It's the snakes here that is going to win Tatanka the game. I think Melvin needs more pigeons against 6 snakes. A little bit of pre-gas going down on both sides, but with pigeons, it's not going to do as much. Pre-gas is huge if you don't have pigeons, but if you do, I mean, it's still helpful, but it's not like the consistent harassment that you need. I'd actually much rather see Tatanka kiting forward with his snakes instead. I guess with the skunk gas, you can, like, keep pigeon tags on squirrels instead, but still, like, if you throw 6 snakes in your opponent's face, you can get a lot more consistent damage. It's a good point from the chat here. If Tatanka was not sitting so aggressively forward like this, Melvin could be taking damage across this cliff. With his flying units and long-range units, he could be damaging Tatanka's expansion here, which might explain why Tatanka is farming up on his ninja instead. It looks like Tatanka's doing a little bit of, like, he's trying to bait Melvin into his snakes, I guess? Meanwhile, Tatanka's just going mass snake. And Melvin is trying to get a fox, which... Oh, sorry about that weird noise. Yeah, I don't know. The fox is going to die in a second if the snake tags get onto it, so it's risky. But if Melvin can keep the snakes off of his fox, then he can actually do pretty decent pokes with it. My main problem here is this choke. Tatanka has the entire map, and he's got Melvin locked behind this choke. So Melvin is going to have to get to work with this fox, push out. He does pick off a snake. That's 2 snakes, but there's a tag on the fox. And the pigeons are going to have to split their healing between the fox and the badger and everything else. That's a lot of damage that Tatanka can do. All of the squirrels are tagged. You can see pretty even snake tagging across the board. This is just brutal. Can Melvin hold this? Not to mention Melvin has 1 farm versus Tatanka's 9. The badger goes down. The fox might be able to survive, but it doesn't matter. Look at the economy now. Those snakes just did their work. And the pigeons are healing the wrong units. The fox dies. No, it heals. Oh my god, that fox healed on literally 1 HP. Holy shit. So yeah, Melvin technically takes a better fight, but the economy does not lie. That fox had better put in insane work. All of the snakes are coming back. Yeah, these pigs are going to die, but Tatanka's got this base over here. Lucky he put his pigs all in different areas. And the second push should probably do it. We'll have to see if Melvin can keep taking these good trades. But Tatanka's, look at all the snake tags going on, everything. There's not a lot of overkill with them. All of the pigeons are going to die. Everything else is going to die, and the fox is going to be left alone. You know what? Is Melvin doing this? There's a second wave of 4 snakes is coming in. 1 tag goes on the fox, but it's not enough. Melvin is starving now. Tatanka just on 4 farms, not enough to pay for all of his snakes. He killed all of Melvin's falcons, so the fox is alone. Melvin can definitely do it. My one misgiving is that snakes are really good in low eco situations, so they're actually going to just get better, not worse right now. But the fox is also pretty good in these low eco situations. This is really brutal. Tatanka's down to 2 farms. And the fox has a whole field of road to run away on. Oh no, that snake didn't shoot! No! Another snake goes down. Tatanka is chasing deep. The fox is going to run out of places to run. Oh wait, no, there's a back door over here. And there's 1 pigeon. Okay, the pigeon goes down. Tatanka chased the fox down and cleared out Melvin's pigeon. So the fox dies, and now it's 2 farms to 1. And Tatanka just has the squirrels for it. Holy shit, that was a really close game. All right. Fox is good, and pigeons are good. But Tatanka's eco just kept him ahead. So we're going into game 3 here. Yeah, that lasted a lot longer than I expected. That was a lot closer than I expected, too. And Tatanka taking the 3rd color here. Green this time. He's doing Wolf Boar. And he's not doing just Skunk Snake. He's also grabbing Falcons as well. So this is like a full super beefy macro late game. Like, this is just an insane punching composition. A little bit weak in the early game, but if he can do just Squirrel Skunk or Squirrel Snake in the early game and get into that late game, then he's going to do just fine. Melvin with his tried and true. I do appreciate the different angles of snake that we're getting here from Tatanka. I would like to see Melvin take a game here, though. See if he can start to push back. Tatanka and Melvin do have a bit of a rivalry, or have had a bit of a rivalry, as far as playing casual games and Pocket Bot Cups for the past year or two. About a year. Yeah, I would say about the last year or so. They've been pretty evenly matched, taking games off of each other, but I don't know if Melvin is ready for Tatanka's new Snake style. The thing is, back when Tatanka was doing like a lot of boar play, the Badger did really well. But I don't know, this is tough. Tatanka is one of the few top premier players that doesn't have a specific kryptonite in another one of the players, with the possible exception of Mishi. A lot of the top players like can take games off of anyone, but there's one person in particular that gives them extra trouble. And Melvin might have been it for Tatanka, but let's see. We do have the Tier 2 coming up again, just Tier 2 on one base. Neither side feeling comfortable expanding, although Tatanka did not bring moles this game, so it's not like he can punish a lot of greed. Melvin grabbing pigeons, which is good, just in time for a snake to pop out for Tatanka. So the skunk, falcon, squirrel, pigeon here, working out pretty well for Melvin against Tatanka's squirrel, skunk, snake. I think I slightly favor Melvin's composition here, but it's tough. It really comes down to the snake micro. And Tatanka is going to farm up fairly greedily here. He only has 6 squirrels at home. Meanwhile, Melvin is setting up for a nice timing push here. He is grabbing a base as well, so maybe just moving out to expand safely. But he could really push in and do a lot of damage. Maybe. Tatanka did drop a 3rd squirrel warren. Where did he put it? Oh, it's here. I'm sorry. And Melvin was not gearing up for a push. He didn't want to push into snakes. He's just pushing forward out onto the map to take his expansion, kind of taking a little bit of control one step at a time here. Yep, it's just forward army placement here, and now it looks like he might be poking in now that he's got plenty of farms started. Tatanka has started his wolf, so he's going to have to defend pretty hard here. A couple of snake tags go down onto squirrels, not the highest value targets, and a squirrel warren goes down, so Melvin has already got some value here. He did lose a couple of squirrels for that. I don't think Tatanka lost any units. Holy shit. Yeah, Tatanka did not lose any units at all, whereas Melvin lost 4 squirrels. Tatanka did lose a squirrel warren, and there another squirrel warren, so Falcon's going down to snake tags. And I think now Tatanka gets to pull back with both skunks of his alive. So both falcons and both snakes died, and otherwise a pretty even army trade. Both sides are also pretty tied on economy. Melvin has a little bit of an economy lead, also his pigeons, whereas Tatanka has the wolf on the way. He's giving his skunks a bath. Tatanka does not have pigeons this time, so he can't rely on that. Melvin going into mass falcon. However, the wolf is pretty nice against mass falcon. If you've got wolf falcon or wolf snake or both, once the wolf pops out, I like Tatanka's army comp a lot better. I'd love to see him drop a boar maybe, but Melvin getting into 8 falcons. Let's see, another falcon warren for Tatanka, so getting up into 4, which is great. 2 falcons is okay, especially early game, but 4 falcons is where it starts to get good. And the wolf is actually buffing all of these pigs, so Tatanka's economy is actually just going absolutely nutso. So he's going to be able to catch up on the falcon count here. Falcon count in some of these games is similar to like ZVZ Mutila scores. Not quite as angular, but Tatanka using his little eco boost. He's going to starve out sooner, but it looks like he's going for a killer push. Melvinfro playing a little bit more safely, No tier 3 yet. He's just going into Mass Falcon, but yeah, I think this wolf is just going to be brutal. I don't think there's anything Melvin can do. Tatanka getting a second Snake Warren. The extra eco, while it's going to be trouble for him in the long run, he just knows he can't take a third base. He has to push out, and he's putting all of his food into one basket here. Here it goes. Tatanka should have a pretty powerful engagement here with all the wolf puffed units. The snake tags need to be really good here. There's a lot of pigeons for Melvin. That's 12. That's a lot. Oh my gosh, the wolf goes down. Did the snakes get enough value? I don't know if they did. Holy shit. No, Melvin just crushed that. That was a lot of pigeons, and I think that's what did it. That was a pretty rough engage from Tatanka. He kind of attacked in a line. His micro wasn't on. Melvin was focus firing the right units, and wow. That was not the engage that Tatanka needed. I don't know if he set that up quite right. Maybe just an extra second of making sure your wolf buffed units are all buffed and lined up quite right or something. But he might not have also considered Melvin having that many pigeons. You know, if you try to run in and tag a bunch of stuff and then there's that many pigeons, then the snakes just don't get as much value, or I don't know. But now Tatanka is down to one base, and that one base has been milked pretty dry by the wolf already, so he's going to have one more shot. But now it's just going to be 4 falcons against 10. He's going to have a lot more squirrels, but I don't know. He's going to have to... This is rough, because there's no third base for him to take. This is pretty much all in. That's a lot of falcons from Melvin. This looks like a much better fight, though. He's tagging everything a lot better, but the falcons get on top. They kill the wolf again. And with all of those pigeons, enough units are going to survive that Melvin should be able to take it, right? He's just going to sit here for a bit and see how much he can save. Yeah, that's enough. Melvin also ecoing up on his third base now. Melvin's got this. There's no way Tatanka can win. He sold the wolf. He just has not enough, and he should just tap out here. We might see one last fight real quick. Melvin doesn't have any skunks at the moment, I suppose, and not as many pigeons, so maybe, but I doubt it. One skunk is about to pop out. There's just too many pigeons here for the snakes to get their value. And Melvin takes a game. Is he going to start the return? Sweep. Reverse sweep. All right, Tatanka changing it up. Going back to the first deck, I believe. We've got Squirrel Mole. Moles have been very helpful for him. We've got Snake Skunk. He's not worrying about the Falcons this game. And he's got Badger Pigeon. Melvin over here in the blue, sticking with the old faithful. He didn't even use this tier 3 last game. He didn't need it. This is a pretty long rush distance. We'll see if that has a big factor in the game. We're probably going to see 2 bases. I mean, it's possible we'll see a 1 base all in, but I don't really think so. Both of these players, they're not expanding super quickly, but they're also not desperately trying to end the game on 1 base. So I'm guessing with this long map, we're going to see a little bit more of a macro game. Both sides are getting up to 8 farms. No early farm safety shenanigans or anything. Early safety warren shenanigans. Tatanka is still on match point, so this is definitely risky for Melvin. And Tatanka also has the small edge of knowing pretty confidently what Melvin's deck is, whereas, you know, Tatanka's been changing up his deck, so Melvin's not exactly sure what he's up against, besides probably snakes. But Melvin's been keeping his deck the same every time. And you know what? The same opening every time, too. He's just going skunks first. He'll probably follow it up with some more squirrels and some pigeons, maybe a falcon warren as well, but certainly going to get those pigeons before snakes can be a huge factor here. So he kind of has a response to the early snakes down, but that doesn't mean he can push early on either. So there's those pigeons. Tatanka going for the expansion. Are we going to see Melvin try and do a push? Squirrel Skunk Pigeon is definitely a pushable composition, so we could see him move out. He is going to... Okay, no, he did swap out one of his Squirrel Warrens to get a second base of his own started. So there's that macro game I was talking about. Snake moving out on the map, and you know what, never mind, moving right on back. Tatanka looks like he's kind of... He keeps changing his mind here, but he did get pigeons, and he's queuing up a farm, so that's going to be good. It's going to help keep his snakes alive, and the longer your snakes stay alive, the more things they can tag, especially with skunk gas around, so it makes a lot of sense. I'd love to see a badge... Oh my gosh, he beat me to it. There we go. The Badger dropped right after a scouting cycle from Melvin. Melvin's going to just farm up here and scout again. One thing I have seen consistently from Tatanka is when he is greeding up, whether that's tech or eco, he does like to sell all the way down to 3 squirrels, which is a bit risky, but when you've got pigeons and snakes as well, I think he feels more confident. Now he's dropping some moles to make sure Melvin doesn't counter push, but Melvin is not counter pushing. He is actually going to go... Badger of his own and drop some tier 2 as well. This is kind of what you'd expect from premier players, is both sides just trying to get a little edge on eco or a little edge on tech. They both scout and they respond to the scouting information with something of their own. That's kind of, yeah, so Tatanka scouts the tech from Melvin and he sells his moles at a slight loss, I'll remind you, grabbing a bunch of farms to try to catch an edge there. So his Badger is faster and his 16 farms is faster. Meanwhile, Melvin here is going for like a 1.5 base timing with his Badger. He's getting another warren of pigeons, a lot of squirrels. Badger is half done. So this is going to be a pretty powerful pushing composition. Tatanka going to rely more on some extra snakes here and his superior eco, not to mention moles that he can add at the last second. There we go, there's a couple of moles. The moles aren't great against a Badger, but they are good tanks against a Squirrel, Falcon, Skunk kind of composition. And they're better than nothing as far as building that quickly, so. Tatanka's Badger is out, he's ready to hold. Melvin's Badger is out, and he grabs 16 farms. Both players are getting into their preferred compositions. No Fox yet. Seems like Melvin likes to save the Fox for later if he can afford it. And it's hard to afford more than... If you're trying to get a full Tier 1, Tier 2 army with some Tier 3 as well, like, without being super greedy, it's kind of hard to get multiple Tier 3 up safely on 2 bases. So I think that's one reason Melvin is kind of saving the Fox for later. Tatanka's kind of setting up a siege outside the front. A crap load of moles. 4 snakes. Melvin is just getting up to his 9 pigeons. That's some really good skunk gas from Melvin here. All of Tatanka's tier 1 is having to filter through that. But the snake tags... Oh no, the Badger for Tatanka goes down. Are the snake's tags good enough? Did he do enough damage here? The Badger's going to live for Melvin. That's just garbage, and the moles can't do anything now. The pigeons all get chewed up. Melvin has got this. Tatanka was focusing his snakes, and he actually lost his Badger. That's the tough thing, is snake and Badger together is kind of hard to prioritize, and so he actually just lost his Badger in a second. And Melvin is sitting here with an absolutely enormous army. A really powerful composition. Tatanka's Badger is on the way. But, I mean, I guess Melvin only has 6 pigeons, but, like, this isn't going to do it. One snake goes down. Tatanka's gonna... Oh my gosh, look at how fast that goes down. Yeah, Melvin takes it. Tying up the series. We're gonna go to game 5 there. I just don't think the moles were as helpful, especially with all of the moles eating that much skunk gas there. Tatanka switching up the color again. I'm gonna have to have a word with him and give him some crap about that. Tatanka in the yellow here. He took the first 2 games, and Melvin in the blue in the top of the map here. If he wins this, it's a reverse sweep. And it looks like Tatanka is actually dropping the snakes, guys. He's going into the full mirror. He knows Melvin's deck, and he's going to use Melvin's deck, and he wants to show us that he can beat Melvin with Melvin's deck. Maybe Melvin just has enough experience against the snakes. He's got pigeons, so you may as well drop him. Save him for another day. I would love to see some Badger Fox action here. This map is really defensive. Tatanka gets a nice like high ground double base with water and everything, and Melvin up here has some cliffs, although cliffs aren't as helpful as you'd think, but with water as well. I don't know, I'm thinking it's going to be hard to push here. Again, 8 farms, tier 1 Warren, probably another 2 base big macro game. Tatanka is the first to expand there. I think he's the first to recognize how easily and safely he can defend. Let's see what Melvin wants to do here. Okay, yep, so he's expanding as well. So Tatanka actually takes a slight edge on the eco here, maybe reading the map a little bit more quickly, or just willing to take risks. Melvin playing a little bit more safely. He's got a 3rd tier 1 Warren in the way, and he's moving forward. Tatanka having to drop a 3rd tier 1 Warren of his own, but he should definitely hold here. Good point in the chat. Welcome in, Lindana. How are you doing? And then, yeah, Sasha's saying Tatanka had been playing with moles, so Melvin playing cautiously against the mole player. Good point. However, this game, it just looks like at the end of the day, Tatanka now is just like 1 farm ahead. Let's see. Army value, same. Income. Yeah, Tatanka just ends up... You can see all of these little tempo fights and scouting fights, and it ends up Tatanka's just now a whole farm in tempo ahead. Not the end of the world, but, you know, it's a noticeable thing. Now he's ahead in tech as well, getting the skunks down. Melvin up to 16 farms entirely here. Let's see what he wants to do. It's once you've kind of gotten your farming going up to 16 farms, then you get to really make your decisions as far as like, there's no more ecoing really, unless you want to take a 3rd base, which you can, but usually players will just sit back and then they'll balance their army. Melvin going for Badger. Tatanka probably going to drop a Badger of his own. If I know Tatanka, he'll drop a Badger and a Fox. He does love his double tier 3 combos. Oh yeah, you know it. Melvin is not going to drop a Fox. He's going to go with extra tier 2 instead. So this is very on brand. Getting his skunks, getting plenty of falcons, getting just a little bit of pigeon started. Tatanka, on the other hand, waiting on the falcons, going into Fox instead. And look at the squirrel count. Tatanka is not afraid to sell down to only 6 squirrels. He knows there's not really any chance Melvin's going to push right now, so why have squirrels if you're not going to use them, right? There's the falcons coming in. There's some more pigeons coming in. And Melvin is going to drop his own Fox as well, just a little bit later. So we might just see what I was hoping for, the Badger Fox versus Badger Fox. This is the full mirror. Both sides on 2 bases. Both sides having 2 skunks and 4 falcons. Tatanka is the first one to grab a 3rd base here. And you know what? This 3rd base for Tatanka is a little bit safer than Melvin's. Melvin has to expand a little bit forward. Not a huge deal, yet. But, like, I definitely prefer Tatanka's side of the map as far as that. A little bit of cliff abuse is possible here, for sure. This third base is a little bit more vulnerable, whereas this one's a lot more defendable. And Melvin going into mass Falcon here. 8 Falcons on the way. Tatanka instead going for extra farms and not relying on the Falcon count. And you know what? In a Fox mirror, I don't blame Tatanka for not wanting to rely on extra Falcons. Ooh, he's picking off a few pigs already. In a straight-up fight, the Falcon count can win, but, like, that's such high-value targets for your Fox, you don't really want to risk it. So Melvin actually sells down to 6 Falcons, and already Tatanka picking off 4 farms. Look at the huge economy. All of a sudden, it's 16 farms to 8, and the armies are, like, not that far off from each other, so unless Tatanka just, like, brutally messes up his micro, he's got a huge edge already. Look at this. Now, Melvin is a really good Badger micro art, and he's more experienced with this. No! I have to eat my words. Melvin lost his Badger. Tatanka has both of his tier 3. I think he's going to take the series. Tatanka just fully farming up. He's got both of his tier 3 up. Melvin is losing all of his units here. His Fox is still alive, yeah, and a lot of his Pigeons, but the Badger is gone. I don't know what happened there. Tatanka actually selling down all of his farms. He's trying to just make sure he can rebuy all of his units. Taking a nice hit on the Badger there. Ooh, careful, you don't want to lose too many of those. Good call on selling the farms. I think he just needs to keep his army lead, since Melvin has been supply blocked for 100 years. Now, Tatanka loses his Fox now, and Melvin's got the Fox, so it's a little bit more even of a fight, but is Tatanka going to try to push it, or is he going to try to back up to his superior eco? It's 9 farms to 4 right now, so he doesn't need to push. He needs to keep that Badger alive. But Melvin is so supply blocked. Look at that tiny army. He's just relying on a Fox right now. He's going to pick off that and then retreat back home. Honestly, I'd love to see Tatanka sell down his Falcons. You don't need him right now against a Fox player. In fact, Melvin's selling his Badger War, and he's going to go hard into just Fox and just try to poke the heck out of it. Now, Tatanka's got his Fox on the way. Yeah, I don't see how Melvin can take this. I mean, Fox is spicy, and you can come back, but, like, it's not that spicy. Okay, Badger tanking a Fox hit, staying revved up, getting healed up. I mean, the Fox is getting its value. Ooh, another Fox goes down. I think Tatanka needs to sell his Foxes. Sell his Falcons. He can get into Mass Squirrel since Melvin is out of Skunks. And Tatanka's Fox is out. Fox versus Fox. If the blue Fox is damaged at all, insta-snipe, and that's going to be game. Tatanka takes the last game after losing a couple and ties up the series, or pulls ahead in the series 3-2. GG's.